Welcome to another edition of Business Today, where we discuss in depth the business world and its dealings. As always, we've got a great show for you. On today's show, we're going to be focusing on the Rotary Club. And to do this, we have brought on the leadership of the Rotary Club to our studios. And we are going to actually speak about a special project they have going on that involves the current COVID pandemic. Before we have a chat, we'll learn a little bit about them.
Dr. Rohantha Athukorala is the President and CEO at Clootrack, Sri Lanka, Maldives and Pakistan. He is also the Chairman of Rotary's Youth Services Committee for the year 2020 and 2021. He is a former Executive Chairman at Lanka Sathosa Limited, Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau and Sri Lanka Export Development Board. Dr. Rohantha was the former Chief Business Development Officer at United Nations, Head of National Portfolio Development in Sri Lanka and Maldives. Dr. Rohantha has won the Best Rotarian twice in his tenure and has won Abdul Kalam Outstanding Leadership Award. Mr. Ajith Weerasinghe is the CEO and Director for 4 companies, including CIC Feeds Limited, CIC Vetcare Limited, CIC Poultry Farms Limited, and CIC Biosecurity Breeder Farms Limited. He is also the Rotary Governor for Sri Lanka and Maldives for the year 2020. Mr. Ajith has been in the Disciplinary Committee of Sri Lanka Cricket and the President of the Veterinary Pharmaceutical Importers Association. Mr. Ajith has won many accolades in his tenure at Rotary, including the Best Rotarian and multiple Paul Harris Fellow Award.
And we do have Mr. Ajith Weerasinghe and Dr. Rohantha Athukorala in the studio with us. Great to have you on. Welcome to the show. I think we've heard a slew of titles for you both. I think impressive achievements on all fronts, business, CSR. So I think the first question I want to pose to you both is about how you got involved with the Rotary Club. How did this particular relationship come to be? I think we'll start with Mr. Weerasinghe.
Well, Uswin, thank you for inviting us for this program today. It is, I think, partially my passion because I have been heavily involved in other social activities from the school days as well. So immediately after school, I was heavily involved in the All Boys Association of Marcella College, Negombo, and then various other social activities. So there are, the networking and getting together with the people and having fellowship have been my real the interest as well as the passion, as I said earlier. So that grew over a period of time, and people have been inviting me to join Rotary for some time. At that time, honestly, I did not know what Rotary is all about. But then when I joined, I really realized this is the place for me where I can serve the nation.
And Doctor?
Well, my affiliation goes back to, I think, about 10 to 12 years back when I used to apply for all the scholarships to go overseas. And I saw this call for group study exchange scholarship, and then I applied and I got a chance from Rotary to go overseas. And at that time, maybe I would never have been getting the opportunity of going abroad. So that was how the first acquaintance happened. And then, of course, I realized that this is a fantastic organization in terms of doing good. And they were like-minded people who were prepared to go and sacrifice their time as well as sometimes their lives to do good to the country and to the world. So that's how this whole story began.
And you're passionate about that, I know, because you are involved with the youth right now as well in the Rotary Club. And speaking about the Rotary Club now, of course, you spoke about the good you do. Care to elaborate? We'll start with the doctor.
Well, it's like this. We normally, we have a Rotary district, which basically look after Sri Lanka and Maldives. With actually Ajith is the governor for this entity for this year, and then you have about 68 to 70 Rotary clubs scattered across the country. So now here you have the Interact and the Rotaract. Interact is more the youngsters in school. You have about 6,800 kids who are all in this whole area of service orientation, and then you have, after you leave school, you become a Rotaractor, and there we have about another 7,800, which are mainly 60% are university students, and then these two groups are the people that I head, and each of them have their own ways of serving. And maybe we will share some of the work that they do as time goes on, and then most of them will say, okay, I would like to serve Rotary, and then they get invited to serve Rotary, and now you have about 2,000 Rotarians in the country.
And of course,
yeah, just to add to what Dr. Rohantha said, in the global level, we are a global association, the first, the largest social organization in the world. So we are representing over 200 countries, about 35,000 clubs throughout the globe, and having about 1.2 million Rotarians.
1.2 million Rotarians
throughout the world, yes.
I think that's a significant number, but the impact you make is sometimes much larger. Now, I think this brings us to the current project that is going on. We all know we are living through a pandemic. Everywhere you go, we know we have to take certain precautions, we have to make certain sacrifices. Right now, of course, the vaccination program is started out. I think this is where you guys come in and help out with the government and the vaccination process. Care to elaborate from that point onwards?
See, what happened was way back in April, when this first lockdown took place, there were some of us asking ourselves, what's the point in us saying that we have served the country, we have won so many awards, we are sitting in plush offices we had, and suddenly you found yourself, you're nothing. You're just a prisoner in your house. So we were asking ourselves, what do we do for this country? We are saying that we are fantastically service oriented. So then this idea came saying that, okay, one option is, if you can follow some kind of a proper behavior pattern, washing hands, wearing a mask, keeping a social distance, checking our temperature, maybe that's one way that we can avoid getting this particular virus, because none of us knew what this virus was. So then, I spoke to a few 6 to 8 like-minded people, and they said, I think there is some sense in which is there, and at that time, this whole birth took place of this thing called Stop the Spread. Now, Stop the Spread has 3 components. The first component is where the school kids are using brand ambassadors. So we tied up with the National Olympic Committee, and we got all the top athletes. In fact, we got about 280 athletes who have won the Asian Games, South Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, and some are like the Youth Olympics, and then they started sharing this new normal among the kids, so that it became like a way of life. So this campaign took off, is what the first step was, and the second step is where they went to the schools around and they started telling them, please follow the new normal. So this went into about 2,000 outlets across the country. And then you have the third one, which is where we went to Sri Lanka Standards Institute, and we said, why don't you develop a COVID control certification system? And at that time, Dr. Siddhika, the Director General, took this very strongly, because she comes from a John Hopkins kind of a university background, and this whole concept came to play. And today, as we speak, you have about 300 companies which are COVID control certified. So it's a government Rotary partnered project. And then you have almost 23% of households in Sri Lanka who have got exposed to this campaign, and through that whole program, if somebody is going to buy this project, a known brand is going to buy it, they'll have to spend about 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
So that's the project that has been conceptualized, and today this project has taken traction not only in Sri Lanka. When I shared this with the governor, he was just about to come in. He said, I'm going to make this a national project. So he saw the beauty about the project, and then of course now you have 6,800 interactors, you have about 7,500 road tractors, and you have 2,000 Rotarians all together driving this project and supporting the country's effort. So it's a unique project. Now it's almost going into the global sphere, linking up with the National Olympic Committees all over the world. Rotary Clubs are working with them and using this opinion leader platform in terms of changing behavior, because the latest research coming out says that even after you vaccinate everybody, if you don't follow the new normal behavior, what's going to happen is that the COVID is going to again start getting spread. So that's essentially what this project is all about.
And Governor, I think you actually, Dr. Rohantha actually explained about how you plan to actually keep this project going. How did you come to become involved in the vaccination process? What was that partnership with the government like?
Well, we realized, just to come with a little bit of history, when Dr. Rohantha came with this brilliant idea, we realized the importance of this. First of all, that's all we could do, to follow the protocols given by MOH. So we really worked on that line, and as he very correctly said, we got all our 3 arms, Rotary, Clootrack and Interact, and got them focused on one area, that is to develop this behavioral change of people. We know that people are not used to wear masks. Of course, at the same time, simultaneously, the government was also doing a lot of work on this line. So we did huge work on our social media platform, which went into many age groups. And we realized people understand, and the name of the Stop the Spread, which is brought by Dr. Rohantha, you can see, we are very, very proud about it. It is being used everywhere.
Yeah, I think it is the national campaign right now to stop the spread. And I think
then we realized one day when the vaccination comes in, it had been on discussion that we want to get involved. So we had some discussions with the health ministries, and they were kind enough to invite us for to do certain areas, that is to support in registration part and also certain logistic, which we are still working on. On trial basis, we do some areas. Maybe I would like Dr. Rohantha to add. Because initially, Kalam Municipal Council area 6 centers they introduced, where the government authorities wanted us to support there. So we have done that, and now it has been expanded to the Greater Kalam area for 16 more centers. And Gampa district, where more vulnerable areas they have found and wanted to continue this vaccination. It is started with about 18 outlets, expanded to about 31. It's moving on daily basis. So we as Rotarian who are responsible citizens, we are trying to do our level best. Of course, there's some more to do.
I think it is essential for every business, like you said. So can you elaborate on the vaccination process, what that works as the governor?
See, what happens is that you have a registration process that takes place. So you would, we would support that process. And secondly, of course, is like what the governor was explaining, the whole area of the logistics in terms of the refreshments, the food, to support the system. And then the Ministry of Health officials would then give the vaccine, and then this particular person would stay for about 15 to 20 minutes and they would go back. So right now we are supporting the system in our own little ways, so that then government can kick in this whole thing of the economy picking up. Like for instance, if you have the COVID control certification now, I mean, Ajith will explain how in the company he works for, through that whole process it became systemic, and then through that you identify a person who would be having COVID and making sure the spread will not happen, so that then the company will continue. Because if you look at our Q2 GDP, it crashed to about 16.3% GDP. Then Q3 it picked up by again a 1.5% plus, and then Q4 we had the second wave coming in. So now with this whole process in place, what you're trying to do is to get people to start leading their normal lives and get the economy going, and through that what happens is you protect the livelihoods of people. So it has a larger entity, and we are so happy that we are part of this whole project. Maybe Ajith can explain what happens in his company through COVID control.
I think that's the natural next question, because of your vast industrial knowledge, the PhD you have done on business administration, you have the knowledge about how a company would function in these pandemics. I think nobody could expect the level of this pandemic, but there are always tough times in CIC. You will know that at certain times you have to take a back seat, and sometimes the situation takes over rather than the business decisions. How do you react to certain situations like that, and how do you actually thrive or continue operating among those situations?
Fortunately, I am in the livestock sector, where it is classified as an essential service. And you may imagine the poultry and cattle, all of them have to be fed daily. So there's no excuse. And for us to manufacture that kind of product in mass manufacturing, you need to have material coming in daily. It has to go on. And like the old chicks, broilers to produce, it's a long process, but then it's a chain of activities which you cannot interrupt in between. So these things were in place. So I didn't have any other option other than working continuously. So, and since I am always prepared to take challenges, I must tell the people, from the very first day, 24 hours by 7, we worked. So we had a lot of challenges. Naturally, the livestock industry itself is a challenge.
Yeah.
But on top of that, so this has been a huge challenge, and even our people were so frightened.
Yeah.
They were, hiding at home. So I used to tell them that no way you can hide and wait. You have to learn to live with this disease.
New normal.
New normal, which was, came into preaching later on, but I was telling from the very first day because I want to run the company. So we started, see a little bit of this stop the spread principles. We applied it there. Then government also have been promoting, propagating, what you have to be doing. So we followed all those protocols, and we started to work. It was a real challenging thing, with the livestock chicks are coming, producing. No one is there to collect.
Yeah, people
Right.
have to be.
Yeah, and then the ones which are in the hatchery, you cannot pull it back. So whether we like it or not, it will come, and the parent layers will keep on laying. You can't stop it. So everywhere it was challenge. But then the beautiful thing is, later on our team, co-team, they were discussing. We have been doing this promotion part of the new normal behavioral changes. What is the next step to get the business run? Then only the economy will run. So to do that, we have to get the companies and small, whether it is small or big, for them to get back to business. So it was discussed in detail and decided, why can't we think of a certification process, a third party certifying that we are following the proper protocols. So when Dr. Rohantha and our past district governor Dushan, so they came with this idea, and they were kind enough to meet the SLSI people, who did a fantastic job. Dr. Siddhika is out of the way in government servants. They did it within about couple of weeks, I guess. They developed a system. Usually when you say, COVID control certified, then people will wonder how can it be certified. But it is a system that is certifying. So I immediately applied for that, and I am proud CIC Feeds is the first local company to be certified. Because we are SLSI certified. I was following some protocols. The important thing there is SLSI still found some gaps. So when these gaps were addressed, it was virtually a comprehensive one. So the result is, when some of my computers had the problems of COVID, we ran uninterruptedly. And later on I can tell you, we cannot stop COVID coming in, but what matters is the spreading it. That is our theme, stop the spread. You and I, we won't know whether we have the disease, right? But we should make sure that it does not spread. So we have had cases, but the beauty is we did not close a single day. The business was running. Because of the certification, we developed the trust, confidence level of our own staff, as well as the stakeholders. So they walk into a company where the COVID certified, it is COVID control environment. So they walk with confidence. So the people who were affected with COVID, and then the first their close people, when they check, all negative. So stop the spread, following the better protocols have helped that it does not spread.
And how the consumer, now the company is operating in different ways, how did the consumer's mindset change? Dr. Rohantha?
See, latest research that is coming out is showing that there is a shift in the way that the consumer is thinking. Like for instance, if they are buying a brand, they are saying, do I understand the deeper purpose of a brand? Because people have now tracked back to traditional methods of using brands. They have gone to using the normal oils, the usual practices of skin treatment, the traditional methods, and that's kind of creating a new kind of demand to a new marketplace. Like if you look at consumption at a home, if you look at the last 3 years, that is 2017, 18, 19, continuously there was a 3 to 6% consumption drop. But then during the pandemic, you saw a growth of almost 14%. Hygiene products have grown by about 186%. Soaps and sanitizers have grown up again by about 14-16%. Now, why is that? Because people at home, they're not spending money on their normal logistics, their entertainment. You couldn't go, so that money was spent on quality products. They started investing time on studies. You know, they would go online, they would do online yoga, they would do online workouts, they would do online education experiences. They started studying and understanding, and it's a huge change that was taking place. And companies also was going through a change where past practices could not be used, because the whole organizational approach had to change to the dynamism of a consumer. So companies had to again invest on new practices, redevelop certain procedures, and that gave kind of a wind to this kind of changing dynamic. So what we see today is we see new brands that are growing. We see how new companies that are seeing them to be more competitive than the rest. And then we also saw kind of organizational design changes. Like for instance, companies who are prepared to take risk, people who are fearless, people who are more digital savvy, people who are more number driven. These are the kinds of new skill sets that people are looking for. So the leader that was emerging in the companies also changed. So we saw a huge drastic change at the consumer end, at the organization end, and the people end. And the companies who grasped it are actually driving strong growth. But otherwise, you know, you're struggling.
I think that's some really insight into how this system operates. And with that, we'll wind up the segment. That was Dr. Rohantha Athukorala and, of course, Mr. Ajith Weerasinghe with us to talk about the current situation, what the Rotary Club is doing. I think they're doing some great work. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I think it was a very informative segment. And with that, we'll be back with the market discussion segment after a short break.